Live music has gone through a massive boom. A lot of that has come from sponsorship, but the majority is tickets. What is the future of selling tickets? Is what we're going to talk about for the next 45 minutes. If you've got good questions on this, I want to see hands early on, because I've done my fair share of moderating already today. Help me out here. But one request, we're going to keep secondary ticketing out of the main conversation just because it can dominate. The arguments have been had before. They all look pretty much the same. Just going to get that out there early. So we might get there in Q&A. We might veto it in Q&A. If you've got a question on that, make it sure it's killer to get past the filter, which is me going, really? Okay. Mark, could you introduce yourself for us?
Yes, I'm Mark, the director from the Paradiso from Amsterdam. I first like to apologize for the stormy and rainy weather we brought you.
It's your
but
fault.
This building seems okay. So I'm the director of the Paradiso for some more than 3 years. And I can imagine that you will understand that I'm a lucky person to being in this job.
And sorry, the capacity of the Paradiso?
Sorry?
What is the capacity?
The capacity of the Paradiso is our main hall has a capacity of 1,500 people, and we have a small hall that can take 300 people, and we have our Paradiso North stage. It's over there, the other side of the River Eye, and that has a capacity of 550 visitors. So we can follow the bands from in their early stage. They play two times the small hall, then they go to the Paradiso North, and if their career is growing, they end up in our main hall. And all the artists like the Paradiso very much because it's Amsterdam in the first place, and in the second place because it's a very authentic. Our building used to be a church, so it's very authentic to play there. Although 1,500 is quite a lot, artists don't feel like they play for 1,500 people because it has a very intimate atmosphere. So when the XX played the EVA's Live Hall 2 weeks ago, 6,000 people, and that's very. A lot of artists say they like the Paradiso when they play here. Adele did that also when she played the Ziggo Dome 5 evenings in a row, capacity of 16,000, and they all look back at their first gig at the Paradiso. So the XX said, our first time at the Paradiso, there were only 40 people in the small hall. So they like us. Because it's Amsterdam, because it's a very nice building, and because they feel supported by us, because we gave them their first step at the European mainland.
Fantastic. Sarah?
I'm Business Development Director for Music at Ticketmaster, so I look after Ticketmaster and TicketWeb, our primary channels. Looking after current clients, making sure they're getting the most out of our services, as well as looking at new opportunities. So festivals, promoters, and venues primarily.
Gotcha. And is everyone familiar with the roles within live music? Could you give us a line on what promoter is, what venue is, the roles they do?
So with a better venue,
Is it a venue?
Yeah.
As I said it, I felt particularly stupid.
Well, we have different venues, Chris. We have different venues.
What are they called?
We can go from club level, all the way through. So, clubs all the way through to stadium, and with the two platforms.
Like Wembley?
Like Wembley, yeah. Twickenham, choose one. And with the two platforms that we work with at Ticketmaster, we go through all of them. So TicketWeb looks after more of the club, theatre level, all the way up to the stadiums with Ticketmaster. Promoters are the guys that put on the gigs. So examples of those that we work with, because I'm UK only. So in the UK, Live Nation, SJM, Metropolis, Communion, local promoters, international promoters, all the way through. And then what was the last one in festivals? Good places to have lots of fun.
You heard it here first. Matthijs, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Very well, nice to see you.
Definitely.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Definitely. I'm Matthijs Boom. I'm from Holland. I live in Utrecht. I'm an artist manager. I manage an artist called Rochelle Louise. She's from Amsterdam. And I consult for a UK band called Bears Den.
Love Bears Den. And would you agree with Mark's summation that the Paradiso is the best place in the world ever?
No, I do. The only thing is, I could only sell 250 tickets in the small room for Rochelle Louise.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, there can be 300 people in it.
Right.
It's only a small.
Okay, Gareth, if you can introduce yourself whilst John sneakily takes the stage and my mic without anyone noticing, that would be amazing.
I will try and do an interpretive dance or something. Yeah, my name is Gareth Deakin. I am a business development consultant in live music and technology. Prior to that, I was 10 years running biz dev for Sony Music and did many things, artist partnerships, ticketing campaigns, pre-sales, various other things in the live space. And then most recently, I was running strategic partnerships for a company called Intellytics, who do guest experience technology, mainly aimed at festivals and live events all across the world.
Great.
Welcome.
Hello. I've just got off a plane, so forgive me if I'm a bit flushed here. But right, where are we up to? Has everyone just introduced themselves?
Yeah.
Great.
your turn.
Good stuff. Okay. So, hi, my name's John. I'm news editor for IQ magazine. Joined today by these lovely panelists who have already introduced themselves, and today we're going to talk about the future of ticketing in live music. Now, the global market for ticketing, concert ticketing, that's club gigs, stadium shows, festivals, everything in between, is worth around $18 billion US. It's set to grow by an average of 7% over the next 5 years, reaching a value of $24.5 billion by 2021. Now, that's a staggering figure, but it's kind of hard to grasp without putting it in any kind of context. Now, according to IFPI, total recorded industry revenue in 2015, which was the most recent available data, was $15 billion. So unless recorded music grew by 20% in 2016, and that's not likely seeing as it grew by 3% in 2015, ticket sales for concerts are worth more to the industry, and crucially, artists who want to get paid, than the entire recorded music sector. But ticketing isn't without its problems. There are concerns about sustainability and with the ever-present spectre of secondary ticketing taking value out of the market. So I thought I'd start by asking each of our panelists what they see as the key growth areas in ticketing in the next few years. Sarah, do you want to start?
I suppose for us, our key is to reach as many fans as possible and sell as many tickets as possible. That's what we do. To do that and how you reach those fans is becoming different, a lot more different. You know, people don't sit at a desktop on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock, you know, wanting to get their Ed Sheeran ticket. They're on mobile, they're on tablets. They're not engaging through email anymore. They're engaging through, you know, the Spotifys of the world and the social networks and all that kind of stuff. So our focus is on number one, how do we reach those fans? Now they're engaging on different platforms. Mm-hmm. And number two, how do we make those tickets easier to buy? So, you know, how do you make that mobile experience quicker? How do you maybe, you know, turn that into an app experience? How then does that turn from buying the ticket to getting to the gig? It's all about innovation, really, and with all the startups that are happening, we've had to step up our game,
Yep.
and we have done that, and we do feel that we've made a lot of advances in the past few years, especially with this year. For us at Ticketmaster as well, there's a big focus on opening up the platforms. So again, being able to reach more fans by opening up the Ticketmaster platform so anyone can sell a Ticketmaster ticket.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And Mark, from you, from a venue's perspective, I mean, how have you seen the way tickets are sold changing at the Paradiso in the past, decade or so?
Mm-hmm. Well, our ticket sales is growing as the whole industry is growing, and we have that secondary market where Chris told us we don't have to speak too much about the secondary market, but that was something that's changing. And what we see now is a reaction is that the most popular artists that can sell out the Paradiso in a couple of minutes want to sell the tickets themselves.
Okay.
Because they can better regulate the secondary market. So we are doing, Father John Misty is doing a small number of shows in Europe in March. and he well, we helped him to choose a good location here. It's in Amsterdam North at a capacity of 350 people. And we like to support him in doing that show, which is very special because I think he can sell out the Paradiso once or twice. But he is selling the tickets themselves. And actually it's a lottery. So you have to send an email to his management or record company.
Okay.
And they want to have the emails from all the fans. And so that's what's happening in our industry right now. And I think I understand that development, but I like to have the clients' mails myself, or the Paradiso. And not to sell more tickets, but to reach the right friends for our artist.
Okay. Is that something you'd agree with, Matthias? Your artists actively wanting to get more involved in ticketing themselves?
Definitely. I think as an artist manager or for an artist career, it's very important to try and collect as much data as possible from your fans. And I think it's very important, but it's very nice for the fans as well if we know we sold like 2,000 tickets in London or 1,500 in Amsterdam, and if we can send everyone an email like, hey, we're playing Amsterdam in a few months. We have a pre-sale going on 1 day before the regular on sale. Buy your ticket through the Bears Den website. That's what we do, and we try to. We have Music Glue. That's a tech company who helps us collecting data and make sure we can do our pre-sales. That's very important for us. Another thing regarding your question, I think, which could be very interesting, for us or for artists and managers, is like platforms as Spotify, and you have millions of streams on those kind of platforms. But how do you convert those streams to ticket buying fans? Which Spotify tries to do a little bit, but I think there's a lot of possibilities over there.
You guys are obviously
So we've
recently partnered with Spotify.
Yep, so we've got the partnership with Spotify now. That's launched in the US. In the US, they're using the Open API platform, which is great. So it means all the transactions can happen on Spotify. They don't even have to come onto the Ticketmaster site. In the UK, it'll be about this summer that it'll start to kick into action.
Okay.
But it will be, you'll have to come through to Ticketmaster to start off with. It's like a steady journey through to this glorious world of open APIs that we will get to at some point. But yeah, it's really exciting for us. It's really exciting for my clients. It's been, as soon as it was announced in the States, it was quite funny because it hadn't actually got to us first. They kind of released it in the States in this press release, and we got all these questions. But it's really exciting. And it's one of the things that we really think will make a massive difference, especially for some of, the ticket web shows and, the more emerging artists rather than your big kind of stadium fillers.
Yeah, sort of club circuit.
Club circuit, yeah. Definitely. And it's quite interesting what you're saying about like the artist data as well, because in the UK we have like an artist services team that works directly with the artists to be able to do all that, and we do share the data with the artists as well as the promoter and the venues.
Okay, is that from the ticket web platform?
From the UK, so from a UK perspective, that's what we do, because obviously again, in ticketing, all the different markets can be completely different. In the UK, it's very competitive. We're on an allocation market, so we try and do as much as we can to win those tickets. Whereas, in elsewhere, because they, there's relationships with the venues own the data, it can get quite complicated. But in the UK, if you do an artist pre-sale, then we share the data with them. Okay. And we can do it through their own branded platforms and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. It seems to me like that's something that's really obvious, that kind of integration with these streaming services, when you've already got fans who are listening to this music and a really easy convertible way of putting bums on seats. But it seems like it's been a kind of long time coming.
Well, you have to wait for like the technology to catch up, and something. And again, you've got all these emerging startups that've got very agile platforms that can quickly adapt to, being able to advance the technology quite quickly. Whereas somebody like Ticketmaster, with the the technology that we've got, is quite a big boat to move sometimes. And so we have to get our reach and the reach of those streaming platforms is going to be key. And now we've got the technology that's going to be able to do it. It should be good.
Yeah. Gareth, what do you think's going to be the next big way to get tickets in fans' hands? I mean, is there any kind of trends you see on the horizon?
Well, just adding to that conversation in some respects. So I think, the industry as a whole is very fragmented. The live industry is fairly siloed and historically been quite fragmented as well. And I think the challenge around data is everyone is essentially competing largely for the same email addresses, holding it in silos and arguing about that. I think the thing that's interesting and exciting about partnerships with someone like Spotify is if you've got a platform people spend large amounts of time within, can you get to a point where you break the model of I'm interested in a specific artist and therefore I get an email about Underworld, whoever it may be, and actually to a point where maybe you're on a given week being told the various artists based on your profile of listening over a longer period of time, those pre-sales that are going on sale that week, maybe links to different channels, maybe not. Maybe the transaction doesn't actually happen within the platform, but I think being able to break what seems like a model we've stuck with, Sarah touched on it, it's moved on from just email. If I was to try and get priority access or notification to the bands that I like a lot of different types of music, it'd be impossible. I'd need to run a separate email address. Actually, I spend my time unlisting myself from various email addresses all over the place. So I'm my own worst enemy, and I miss events time and time again because of that. And that's nothing to do with allocations and tickets disappearing. It's just because I'm just not being made aware of it. And I'm obviously a key customer. I'm identifiable, and I'm my data's out there. I use things. I'm not, but I'm not necessarily using email to do that. So I think a big part of it is potentially moving away from email being the primary way that.
Are you on Spotify?
Yes.
Is it connected to your Facebook? How did you sign up for it?
Yeah, it is connected to my Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, realistically, they know
so
everything
know a lot
about
more
me.
about you.
And on that, I don't mind them knowing everything about me as long as the payout is good. And I think that's a payout, to your point, that's a long time coming. It seems like we should be there by now.
It is quite hard with ticketing though, because a lot of it is not you buying the tickets like it is for your club shows and those newer emerging artists and stuff. But when you go onto some of the more pop acts and the stadium fillers and stuff, it's not those people buying the tickets. So it's not those I don't know how often you buy, tickets for your kids or whatever, so that kind of skews the data a bit because we have like the similar tools in Ticketmaster where we can get like the affinity data around certain artists that we target, but it throws up some really weird stuff sometimes.
Really? So you've got all these accountants going to all these Justin Bieber shows.
Yeah, and or I think the one thing that I did, what I said before was in comedy, I think Miranda Hart, when we went on sale Miranda Hart, it kind of threw up a load of rugby fans. So we ended up targeting all like the rugby 2015 fans.
Why was that?
I haven't got a clue. Really haven't got a clue.
There you go. Do you think there's ever going to be any kind of backlash against that sort of data gathering? I mean, I feel like as we move into a period when companies know more and more about us, I mean, do you ever see... Is privacy an issue for people that come to the Paradiso, for example? Do you get many people opting out of your marketing?
Mm-hmm. I don't think privacy is such a problem with our customers. You have to take into account that for a person who thinks that's a problem, he should be saying no. He or she could say no to an email service or something like that. But I don't think that's a big problem. What I have against big data, and you have to know I have an econometric research background, so if anybody's more in data in this hall, it probably would be me, the most in data. But still, I don't believe in analysis of big data. That's what you told about the rugby example. But we could use our data better. I would like to cooperate with Spotify. But since Spotify has grown as a bigger company, they're not so open anymore. We cannot discuss about why can't we use this data and give you the insights of the analysis that we make. But still, I mean, we are not in this industry for ourselves. We are in this industry for the bands and for their fans. So we should try to do everything we can in order to facilitate the bands in reaching their fans.
Yeah. And do you currently get everything you need from your ticketing partner to do that? Do you have all the data you need?
Yes.
Who is your ticketing partner?
Well, she is actually not in Holland, but her Dutch counterpart is our.
Okay.
And because Ticketmaster is one of the biggest ticket selling companies in the music industry in the Netherlands, it's important for all the venues in the Netherlands because we could use our data together in order to serve our fans better.
I think that's the key, isn't it? The key is to get it out to as many fans as possible, and it's identifying who they are and getting that maximum reach. You know, which, again, going back to the startups, and a lot of the startups that have come around, they've got really innovative technology, but sometimes that reach is just not there, and you need to combine the two. You need to have the technology and the reach and the marketing power to be able to sell the tickets.
But I think that's the other thing, the kind of startups coming into the market now are across different parts of the value chain. They're not all now competing in primary ticket sales. So that there's different bits that are buried maybe to the consumer, but in principle they're about making the consumer experience better. And I think, you know, that's where the growth, I think, comes, certainly from a technology point of view moving forwards, is actually seeing people moving away from all competing over the same allocations of tickets a bit and moving into deeper levels of value where that can be generated.
Well, and I think it's very important when you start to annoy your fans or customers with when data is not matching what the fan wants or whatever.
So they're getting irrelevant mail outs.
Then you have a problem with Bears. Then we just did a US run in January and February, and we did some promoted posts on Facebook, and we tried to target it to each city before and after the show, and we saw the click rate was like 40% higher than the previous one we did in September, where we didn't target it well. So I think, and for me as a customer as well, and as a fan of numerous bands, if it's done right and the data is used right, I'm a happy man. But if it's done wrong, you know.
Yeah. Just going back to that, you were talking about reach, Sarah, and you, Mark, talking about reaching the maximum possible number of people. Am I right in thinking you guys are selling tickets in a chain of convenience stores here in the Netherlands? I've got the name written down somewhere. Primera?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I think if it's 1%, it's much. So it's
really.
I think it's because Ticketmaster wants to provide those shops on other markets, not specifically on our markets. So
Okay.
Almost all the tickets are bought via internet.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it's probably to do with this open API platform.
Right.
So basically, which means that anyone can sell a ticket. So I think in Spain we've got a couple of partnerships, like with one of the big supermarket companies out there. So you go onto like a branded site that's branded that supermarket, and you go through and you buy your tickets there.
Which
a
is
bit like a pimped up affiliate scheme.
Return to an old model of paper ticketing and record shop selling tickets.
But all online. It's all online. Yeah.
Can't work with digital.
On the subject of paperless, why are people still buying paper tickets? If anyone wants to jump in. I mean, why in this day and age would I want a bit of paper?
Because you want to put it on your wall.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Am I 14?
No, well,
Why would I want a paper ticket?
I don't. Well, I mean, there's lots of operational stuff behind the reasons that we have to still use paper tickets. I mean, again, talking of the UK market only, a lot of the venues in the UK are run by different ticketing companies.
Yeah.
And those different ticketing companies don't accept the other ticketing companies' barcodes. So they have to send tickets to us in Manchester for us then to send them out to you to be able to post out to you.
Right.
We couldn't send you an email because if we sent you an email with our barcode on it, you get to the venue and you wouldn't get in. So that's one thing. There's a lot of, it's us all work. I think it's getting better. It is getting better. We're all working together. It's a lot, a lot more harmonious than it used to be.
Okay.
But then the other thing is people do like a souvenir ticket. We started something recently called Collector Ticket, which is like a lanyard-sized souvenir thing with a bit like this with the artist's image on the front and a barcode with the date and time of the event, and they sell really, really well because people want something that they can keep in this world of like digital technology and everything coming and going and no souvenirs. People do like to have something. Maybe not you.
Do you think that's going to be key to your competing with? You were talking about these disruptive ticketing startups, the Dices of this world. I mean, is that going to be an aspect of competition, or is it purely your reach at this point in time?
Dice has made us step up our mobile game completely, I think. I mean, it's been a great tool for me. I've been in the role that I've been in for 2 years, and my background before starting at Ticketmaster was in mobile app companies. So, starting somewhere at Ticketmaster where our mobile game was not up to scratch at all was really frustrating. So being able to present the Dices of this world to the powers that be above and go, look, this is what we need to be doing, this is how easy people are making it, has massively made us step up our game. I think Dice has got it's got brilliant use for where it is, what their business model is, whether there's longevity in that, as we kind of discussed before. I don't know, I don't know what their business plan is, but
No.
I know that I don't keep all my booking fees, that's a revenue stream for my promoters and for my clients.
Of course, yeah.
Whether it's sustainable, I don't know.
How about your acts, Matthias? Do they like paper ticketing? Paperless ticketing, sorry.
I have no idea, actually.
No?
No.
Never come up.
No.
Okay.
It's not really... like, if there's still a market for paper ticketing, I think it's important that it's still there. Because it has to be convenient for everyone who wants to come to my band's shows. But
So do you think that's it then, Gareth, offering a range of tickets for however people want to get them? Do you think that's the future? Or do you think we'll ever go completely mobile?
No, I mean, I think ultimately, my point of view is it will go totally mobile. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an access technology, so it's about utility, it's about getting you in as quickly and efficiently as possible, and that's the same for you as an attendee as it is for the venue. The venue wants to get you in as quickly as possible. I think if venues want more data as well, then that's easier if it's all digital, and with all the other technologies that are coming through to kind of try and make things like security around ticketing and other things better and more affordable, I think it will level out. So I think it's inevitable it'll all be digital.
Okay. I wanted to talk about dynamic pricing just very quickly. I think this is probably going to lead us onto the secondary market eventually, but we'll try and keep away from it for the time being. But this has always seemed to me like a really good way of pricing the show to fit the house, and you've got everyone paying. You've got people. I'll just explain. But dynamic pricing it's used in sports. It's used for some flights. It's used for a lot of online ticket buying, and basically the price of the ticket will fluctuate based on demand. So if it's a very in-demand show and people are willing to pay a lot of money for it, then it shows there's a market there and people are willing to pay it. Why don't more of your artists use dynamically priced with their platinum service?
So a lot more are. So platinum. So we have a service that does do that. It's called Platinum at the moment, and we take kind of the best seats in the house or the best of each section, and we dynamically price that with all the data that we've got, all the transactional data. We kind of know what that real market value of that ticket is, so we're able to price it accordingly. In my world, I think we will get to a space where all all ticketing is dynamically priced.
Right.
The technology is there to do it. The issue that you've got is the customer acceptance of it. I mean, I can't remember a time that I went and bought a flight where it was the same price one day as it was the next.
No.
But we've all got used to that now, and no one sits on a flight and goes, "What did you pay for your ticket?" But when you go to a gig, people do, because it's such an emotional purchase. We get that now even with the platinum tickets, that you get people just annoyed, that they've spent 90 quid and 50 quid and whatever. But I do think it is the way forward. Pricing the house is a key thing against, being able to restrict resale, if I do say the word. It is a key, and it's something that I use with my clients to enable them to do that. We use it a lot. But it is to make it broader, to be able to get to the point where you can dynamically price a general admission event or dynamically price a whole house. It is customer acceptance of using that tool. And another thing is if you do dynamically price the house and you make those, key seats, those best seats in the house, X amount of money, and the more margin is going back to the artist, back into the tour. That's the key thing. That ticket is not being sold at £50 and then being resold at 150 and that going into Tom down the road's pocket. It's going back into the artist. You then are able to maybe offer some of the other seats in the house at a lower, more accessible price for those that want them.
Yep.
But then the key thing, if you're going to do that, is you have to then put some restrictions around those tickets to stop those tickets being able to go into secondary. If you don't put any restrictions on tickets, there's an open market. So unless you do something like a paperless system, so taking the credit card to the show, names on tickets, but with ID checks, no one is now deterred. No other secondary platforms are deterred by this name ID checking because no one does it. So yeah, I would say price the house as well as you can, use platinum pricing for those top price tickets, and then put restrictions around the lower price tickets. Okay. But yeah, I think 6-7 years maybe we'll get to a point where we're dynamically pricing festivals even.
Really?
I'd like to get to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just a quick observation. So the industries that use dynamic pricing successfully, so hotels and flights and theme parks, etc., obviously the sales for like a big, highly in-demand show, which if we're sort of skirting around secondary is sort of what we're starting to talk about, they don't sell out in a day or 2 hours or 20 minutes. They are on sale over a long period of time. So I think there's some complexity in how you manage that at scale, and I think that's going to take a while before people are confident in that being something they want to get into and do and can get their heads around.
I mean, you've also got to get around the promoters that want to sell their tickets quickly, and selling them at 35 quid when really they're worth, you could get 70 easily for them. They are going to fly out. So you've got to have the whole buy-in of the industry, to be able to do it. And sometimes you don't have that.
I don't have a lot of knowledge about the dynamic ticketing, but is it a temporary solution until we get to the point we have a real solution for secondary ticketing?
No, it is a solution. Well, it's not a solution. It is one way to be able to restrict resale. So dynamically pricing the tickets means that there's less margin then for someone who buys that ticket to then resell it. So people thinking they're going to make a quick buck by buying a £50 ticket that they know tomorrow they can sell at £150. If the artist or the promoter sells that ticket at £150, that money goes back into the pot, and that they're not going to bother because there is no margin in it. But I completely understand that for some artists they want to be able to offer their fans a price that people can access and is affordable for all. But when you do that, there has to be something around to stop that ticket being resold.
I'm not such a fan of dynamic pricing. Actually, we already have dynamic pricing with the secondary market, although the margins go not to the right holders, which is a big problem. But we tend, as a venue, we like to keep our prices low because we can maintain longer careers inside our venue. Okay. And we like to be open for everyone, even people with a small income can come to these shows.
We've actually got 5 minutes left, so I'm just going to open this up to questions if anyone's got anything they'd like to ask. Yeah.
Wait for the mic.
Hi, I was wondering, we opened this day with a keynote about virtual reality. Two big problems for customers is that venues in Paradiso are sold out immediately, or it's too expensive. Do you think in the future there will be like $4.99 tickets where you can watch it in VR?
I mean, from a company-wide perspective, from a Live Nation Ticketmaster perspective, Live Nation have just done a partnership with a VR company. So can I see that becoming us selling the £5 tickets to it? Yes, definitely. Definitely.
I mean, I think there's a lot of rights holders doing deals around that, or wanting to do deals around that type of stuff, and there's going to be demand for content. So I think that's definitely possible. I think one thing that's interesting is taking it outside of venues. So festivals, if you imagine, say, a boutique festival, who potentially there's been certainly in the UK, been a big growth in sort of boutique mid-level festivals that have very strong identities, unlikely to want to scale to ever be as big as a Glastonbury or a Reading, but may actually have a brand that will travel. So the idea of being able to share that experience in other markets internationally and then use that data to help work out where you go and start sort of seeding the brand and various other things, that's really interesting. And I think that's another angle where it may get used and start to be developed.
Hi, thank you guys for leading such a very interesting conversation. I was wondering if you could expand on the link between streaming and live, especially with, for example, the Ticketmaster Spotify integration, because I've heard some mixed feelings just in terms of how effective that conversion really is from like going from streaming to buying a ticket, because it's two very different types of consumption. So I was wondering if any of you guys, it's a question for all of you, could speak to that.
Well, I, as a consumer, last week got an email from Spotify saying, hey, these 3 artists are playing nearby, which I really liked. So I think Spotify is definitely trying to improve that and make that happen a lot more. So I think that's a good example, if you ask me.
From my point of view, can I come back to you in like 12 months when we've tried it? I mean, until we've got it in the UK and until we see how it acts and we've got some proper data, then I don't know. But I know, as Matthew said, that I do. We've seen some great results from Spotify pre-sales recently, where the artists, I know that Disclosure sent a message out via Spotify for the wildlife pre-sale. That worked quite well. Give me... I'll come back next year and tell you how it's all gone.
I mean, I think there's some interesting stuff going on with, so in e-commerce, in wider e-commerce, because ticketing is by and large an e-commerce business, or going to become more so, with AI and things like chatbots and that side of things. So if you take the data that, say, Spotify's got and actually you take it outside of the platform where it is at the moment, which is potentially a passive consumption model, which I think is what you're alluding to in terms of kind of how people then buy tickets. If you change, in that model, essentially a chatbot would effectively come to you and know through your profiles that a tour is going to go on sale and would contact you via whatever method. So it's not having an app and having set a bunch of preferences and then getting spammed by 10,000 artists. The idea is it gets smart enough and clever enough that it's actually attuned to kind of what you do. And that probably solves the problem Sarah raised about, if I buy a Little Mix ticket for my daughter, do I forever get bombarded with stuff for Little Mix and associated artists, which I don't want, thanks.
Okay, we've got 1 minute left, so I think we're probably going to have to leave it there. Thank you all so much for coming, and I think we've got a Meet the Speakers session later on if anyone wants to continue this chat later tonight. All right, thanks very much.